They thought I was finished. The mahogany casket gleamed under the muted lights, and I stood alone before it. 2 seats down, my wife crossed her legs with deliberate grace. Her diamond-studded heels caught the light sharp cold, predatory. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. Her smirk behind the wineglass said enough. My brother leaned back in his chair, chin tilted with that familiar smugness. $10 million had just been handed to him, and I could already see him calculating the next 10. The room was filled with murmurs and clinks of glass. But none of it was for me. I was the son who stood silent, invisible. And then my father's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. You should have done more with your life. You're not entitled to a damn thing. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Each word was delivered like a sentence carved in stone. My mother didn't defend me. She didn't even look at me. She simply nodded, lips pressed in that familiar, disapproving line. Go earn your own. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just stood there absorbing the weight of their judgment, every ounce of it pressing against my ribs. Then came the laugh, soft, deliberate. My wife again. She whispered into her glass, not even trying to hide it. Guess useless stays useless. And that's when the old man in the corner coughed. The lawyer, quiet, almost forgotten, the kind of man who blended into shadows until it was time to speak. He stood up, slowly, as if waking from a long slumber. In his hand was an envelope, yellowed, brittle, sealed with wax. My grandfather's crest. I have been instructed, he said, to read this letter only after the will, and only in the presence of Daniel. Every head in the room turned toward me. My wife, my brother, my parents. Their expressions froze, and just like that, the game shifted. If you've ever felt invisible in the room where you should have mattered most, if you've ever stood silently while people you loved made you feel like nothing, leave a single dot in the comments. I was once that dot. I used to believe in family. I used to believe that blood mattered, that love had weight, that loyalty meant something. I believed it so much that when I started my tech company in a cramped studio apartment, I did it with hope, with passion, and with Claire by my side. She told me she believed in me, told me we were building something together. In those early days, we had nothing but ambition and a dream. She brought me coffee during my all-nighters, kissed my forehead before product pitches, and said she'd be there when we made it. And I believed her. My brother Adam, meanwhile, was already slicing through Wall Street like a shark in a feeding frenzy. My parents adored him. They said he was bold, decisive, successful. They looked at me and saw ... potential, a word that sounded kind but felt like a warning. They said I was soft, too quiet, too slow. At family dinners, Adam would mock my startup like it was a hobby. He'd lean back with his wineglass, flash that grin, and say things like, when you're done playing with code, let me know. Maybe I'll get you a real job. Everyone laughed, even Claire sometimes. I didn't push back. I didn't argue. I just listened. I kept my head down and worked. Code, test, fail, repeat. For every investor who said no, I built again. For every bug in the system, I stayed up another night. And through it all, I still believed that one day I'd walk into that dining room and they'd look at me with pride instead of pity. But that day never came. Instead, the more I grew, the less they seemed to see me. Claire stopped asking about the company. Adam grew bolder with his jabs. My parents called less. Birthdays came and went with polite texts and forwarded memes. I was surrounded by people who knew my face, who shared my blood, but not a single one of them truly saw me. I wasn't angry, not then, just tired. There's a kind of loneliness that's worse than being alone. It's sitting at the table with people you love and realizing you're just background noise to their own narratives still. I didn't leave, I didn't shout, I just watched, believed, hoped. If you've ever been the quiet one in a loud room, the overlooked in a family of stars, then you know that silence can echo louder than any scream. It started with a whisper, a late night, a half-closed door. I had come home early from a cancelled investor meeting. Claire was in the kitchen, her voice low, intimate. She didn't hear me come in. I stood still in the hallway, just out of sight, as I heard her laugh. Then I heard Adam's voice on speaker. They were talking about me. He's a placeholder, she said, her tone dripping with amusement. Let the fool build it, then we'll take it. She laughed again. So did Adam. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The air in my chest turned to lead. That night I didn't confront her. I didn't raise my voice or storm out. I just listened. And then I began watching. I started with the phone records, quietly, carefully. I read old messages, scanned, shared calendars, dug through synced folders she thought I'd forgotten existed. The pieces were all there, scattered across years of trust. I just hadn't looked closely enough before. Then I hired a private investigator. He worked fast, discreet. Within a month he handed me a report. Offshore accounts, rerouted funds, and a shell company registered in a quiet corner of the Caribbean. The name on the paperwork was Claire's. What I had built, what I had poured myself into for a decade, was the foundation of a scheme I was never meant to survive. They weren't just stealing from me. They were planning to erase me. And still, I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I smiled. I played the same game they were playing, only quieter. Each day after that, I looked at Claire a little longer, studied her tone, her patterns, her timing. Each time Adam called, I recorded it. Every shared glance between them became a clue, a pattern, a trail. I was no longer a man grieving love. I was a man documenting betrayal, and the more I learned, the colder I became. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. It's strange how the people closest to you can lie so easily, so completely. But it's even stranger how silence lets the truth rise, one detail at a time. I let them think I was failing. That was the first move. I started showing up late to meetings, missed deadlines, ignored emails. I let my board worry. I let my investors whisper. I fed the illusion that the company I had built with 10 years of blood and silence was slipping through my fingers, and they believed it. Claire watched from the sidelines, pretending to be concerned. Adam, ever the opportunist, circled like a vulture. I saw the calculation in his eyes. He thought the timing was perfect. He began calling my investors, offering to help stabilize things. Behind closed doors, he was already drawing plans to acquire majority shares. What none of them knew was that I had already moved, created a trust. Silent, hidden, ironclad. I transferred my assets slowly, methodically into structures no one could trace without a map they didn't know existed. Every share, every patent, every ounce of value was stripped from my visible portfolio and tucked away into something no one, not even a forensic accountant, could unravel without years of digging. And while they watched the surface crack, I rebuilt the foundation underground. I played the role of the burned-out founder, the visionary who had lost his edge. I made just enough noise to be pitied, just enough silence to be forgotten. I let the rumors spread, that I was depressed, that I was out of touch, that I was done. All of it was part of the script. Claire started drafting divorce papers. Adam pushed harder. My parents, always swayed by appearances, stopped asking about the company altogether. They had already decided I had failed, and I let them. Every time I saw Claire look at me with that subtle mix of disappointment and contempt, I nodded internally. Every smug glance Adam threw my way was confirmation that the act was working. I kept the facade intact because the truth is, when people think you're broken, they stop looking for the cracks. I wasn't falling. I was lowering myself to the ground so they'd never see me rise again. The revenge wasn't in shouting, in confrontation, in public war. It was in letting them win a battle I had already left behind. I wasn't fighting for validation anymore. I was building something they could never touch, not because I hid it from them, but because they never thought to look beyond what they believed about me. That's the thing about being underestimated. It lets you move in plain sight. It was a year before he passed when my grandfather called me. It was a quiet evening, the kind where the world feels paused. I answered, expecting nothing more than small talk or perhaps one of his usual gentle reminders to rest more and worry less. But his voice that day was different, measured, low, and steady. He asked if I could meet him, just the two of us. No family, no noise, just him and me. That we sat in the back room of his house, a place filled with old books and older silences. He poured tea, the kind only he drank, and slid a thin envelope across the table. I've been watching, he said. Not them. You. I didn't know what to say. He had always been quiet at family gatherings, observing more than he spoke. But I never thought he saw me. Not really. He went on to tell me about a piece of land he bought decades ago in Nevada. Back then, it was worthless desert, a retirement dream that never materialized. He kept it, almost forgot it until the surveys came in. Beneath the dirt and rock, they found lithium, a lot of it he didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not Adam. Not even his lawyers until that day. He told me because he said I was the only one he trusted to protect it. You listen more than you speak. He told me that's why I chose you. Quiet men see more. He had already begun the process, setting up a trust in my name, safeguarded through legal keys only his attorney could access. He didn't want the money going to people who would twist it into something hollow. He wanted it to build something better. Before I left, he handed me a letter sealed with wax. Only open it when the time is right, he said. That was the last real conversation we ever had. I never told anyone about it. I never even touched the envelope, not until the day of the funeral, not until the room turned against me, and not until the lawyer stood up and said my name. The room fell still as the lawyer unfolded the letter. His hands trembled only slightly, his voice clear and deliberate. He began to read, and with each word, the air grew heavier. To Daniel, I leave the entirety of my hidden estate, 138 acres of mineral-rich land in Nevada. Mineral rights intact. Estimated value $420 million. Silence, then glass shattered. My mother dropped her wine. My father stood up so quickly his chair scraped loudly across the marble, his face flushed with disbelief, with rage. That's impossible, he barked. Adam's jaw clenched, his nostrils flared. He's lying. That land's not even real. Claire didn't speak. She couldn't. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She stared at me like she was seeing a ghost she once thought harmless. The lawyer continued, unbothered by the chaos building around him. Furthermore, I have left instructions to transfer controlling interest in the Daniel Trust, including said land, its mineral rights, and 51% of the family foundation shares, to Daniel upon my death. My father's voice cracked with fury. He manipulated him. This is fraud. Adam lunged toward me, face red, hands clenched. You set this up. You tricked him. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I pulled out my phone. You remember this, Claire? I tapped play. Her voice filled the room, sharp and clear. He's a placeholder. Let the fool build it, then we'll take it. Silence dropped like a hammer dot. Then I slid a folder across the table toward her. Divorce papers signed, dated, filed weeks ago. I own nothing in my name, I said, calm and steady. Everything is protected. You can sue me if you want, but you won't touch a cent. Claire opened a folder with shaking hands. Her face drained of all color. Adam snarled again. You'll regret this. I'll ruin you. I turned to him, nodded to the second lawyer standing quietly in the back. No one had noticed until now. He stepped forward, handed Adam a sealed document. Second investigation, I said. Money laundering, tax fraud, shell companies in your name. Adam paled. You're bluffing. No, I said, still calm. You set yourself up. I just held the mirror. Security entered the room seconds later. Adam fought it, screamed, cursed, but it was over. The people who once laughed in private now stood exposed in public, and I didn't raise my voice once. If you've ever dreamed of turning the tide, of reclaiming your power after being counted out, then you know what this moment feels like. If that resonates with you, consider subscribing. There are more stories like this, quiet victories with loud echoes. I never wrote them back. After the funeral, letters started arriving. From my parents, from distant relatives. Some were angry, some were apologetic. Most danced around the truth, trying to rewrite what had already happened. I didn't open any of them. I moved across the state. Started again under a different name. I rebuilt the company, not as a monument to prove my worth, but as a space to create with people who believed in something beyond profit. People who believed in the work, not the performance. The lithium estate remained untouched for months. Then, I used part of it to establish a scholarship fund. I named it after my grandfather, for quiet kids. The ones teachers often overlook. The ones who sit in the back and listen. I thought he would have liked that. Claire tried to reach out once. She sent an email. No anger, no demands, just 4 lines. I missed the real you, the one who used to believe in people. I didn't reply. Because the truth is, the real me died the night I heard her laugh with my brother. Adam, last I heard, is still locked in legal battles, still denying, still blaming, still trying to rewrite a story he lost control of a long but I'm not angry, I'm not bitter. I don't lie awake imagining revenge. I don't celebrate what they lost. I simply breathe easier now. There's peace in walking away without needing to be right, without needing to win louder. I used to think strength meant proving everyone wrong. Now I know it means needing no one's permission to be yourself. I was once the forgotten one. The background, the PLACEHOLDER. Now I am free, and I have nothing left to prove.